Episode 409, Time for Punishment. Let's go! Everyone from Class 6 is going to the running track to watch the teachers, Eric roared. Let's laugh at them all trying to run, he continued and laughed loudly. Eric, you're going too far, Billy yelled. Eric was deliberately provoking him in public. Why don't you run back to your uncle, Billy? Do you think I don't know what you're up to? You deliberately passed on your uncle's information about Mr. Ambrose to us. You're hoping that we'll do what you're too feeble to do yourself and drive him out of the school by acting out. Do you really think I'd let myself be used by you? Eric mercilessly revealed Billy's deviant plotting to everyone. Billy's face drained of color. His secret had been exposed. He ran out of the room before Eric could say anything else. On the running track, more than a dozen teachers had gathered. They looked miserable. The principal approached Alex and said, Mr. Ambrose, do you really think this is appropriate? After all, we're colleagues. So should we really be having bets with one another? The principal was neutral in his regard for the teachers, and he had no strong feelings about Alex. Alex shook his head and said, No, we shouldn't. A teacher should be a benchmark for moral character. If you're not, you'll lose all respect from the students. There was one really desperate teacher. Hey, Mr. Ambrose, how can you justify making us run and then spout that nonsense? He shouted. What nonsense? The bet wasn't my idea, but you all insisted. Now you have to face the consequences. To back out now would set a poor example and demonstrate how weak you are to the students, Alex replied. He felt like he was dealing with a group of infants. Billy took a deep breath. His heart was thumping, but what could he do? He was well aware that if a teacher lost their reputation in front of the students, they would be finished. He and Leonard looked at each other with eyes full of resentment and anguish. Billy knew that although everyone would laugh at him if he ran, it was still better to run than to back out. He really didn't have much choice. He walked to the front of the group of teachers. The teachers were all pointing and laughing at them. We can't wait to see you run, Mr. Wilde. We want to see your stomach shaking while you're running, shouted one boy. Oh, I think you're making him angry, said another. This is going to be so much fun. We never get to see the teachers trying to do sports, said another. Isn't that Mr. Garvey? Hey, Mr. Garvey, don't let Mr. Winters beat you, yelled another. Ha 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 ha! They all laughed happily. The students from Class 6 couldn't stop laughing at the teachers. Every time they thought they had made the perfect joke about one, they came up with an even better one-liner about another. Alex was watching the teachers and trying not to laugh himself. The new teacher looks quite athletic, Eric commented. That doesn't mean we'll be any nicer to him, replied his friend. More and more students came to the track to watch the teachers running. After all, it was unprecedented for so many teachers to be humiliated together. But none of the teachers usually did much exercise, and after running only 400 meters, they were out of breath and sweating. The news spread quickly around the campus, and most of the students came to watch. Even some teachers sacrificed going home early and rushed to the running track. Go and ask the students in the dormitory if they want to come and watch, someone yelled excitedly. A lot of the students started cheering, and a few were even whistling at the teachers. Most of the students in Class 6 were joining in. They were the most excited of everyone to watch the race. By the time the teachers had run the first lap, Most of the students had gathered to watch the dozen teachers performing on the track. The teachers were ashamed and angry, but they had no choice but to keep running. After running for a few laps, their hatred of Alex had increased tenfold. "It's about time we got her on back," shouted one student. "You guys make us run every day. It's time for us to see you getting exhausted in our place." The whole school was overjoyed to watch the teachers' humiliation. Every word that was shouted at teachers was adding insult to injury. Each of them privately wished a hole would open up in the ground and bury them. When they looked over at Alex, their eyes were filled with hatred and their lungs almost burst with anger. On the edge of the running track, Alex sat on the chair with his feet up and enjoyed a cup of tea. And the principal stood beside Alex. He looked as if he was talking with him about something. "Okay, I'll follow your advice, but I still want you to take charge of Class 6. If time permits, of course." The principal's tone was very humble. Alex had just told the principal all about the real situation with Heidi and her father, and the principal was very sorry to hear about what her family was going through. Alex reassured him. "You don't have to worry. Class 6 is just a group of typical adolescents. If they're properly guided, they'll be fine. They're all very smart kids." The principal pushed up his glasses and admitted that he appreciated Alex's work with Class 6. He said, "I recognize that you're an excellent teacher. I've worked in education for many years, and I recognize a good teacher when I meet one. I believe that you will manage Class 6 perfectly." Then he confessed sincerely, "Initially, I only agreed to the arrangement made by my superiors because I had no choice. I admit that I had no confidence in your teaching ability, but I'm happy to say that I've been proved wrong. I am very hopeful for the future of Class 6, and I apologize for my lack of judgment." The fact that Alex had been able to help with Class 6 was of huge value to the principal, and he was extremely grateful to Alex. Alex knew that to successfully manage people, you first needed to control their hearts. Making the teachers run really won Class 6 over, which would help him manage them in the future. He knew that the teachers themselves were furious with him, but that didn't bother him at all. Perhaps they wouldn't be so quick to try to attack him in the future. A particularly tall student walked over to Eric and said, "Eric, I really like that teacher. What a character." The student looked strong and athletic and clearly took regular exercise. "Maybe it's all a trick. He's trying to win us over," Eric said suspiciously. "I don't care what his motives are. He looks like he's interested in sports, so I'm going to see how fit he really is in PE class tomorrow. Let's go for a walk." Just as they stood up to walk away, one of the exhausted teachers running on the track collapsed to the ground.